So welcome back everybody, Byron here from ETA. And as you can see, we've got everything set up to do part 2 of the CZ P07 trigger spring polish and upgrade. So we have 3 springs that are left. We got this one, and this one. So here's your hammer spring, this is your trigger return spring, and then this is your disconnector spring, that small tiny little fella in there. You're going to need your 1/8 inch, 3/32, and 1/16. You're going to need a micro tip, flat or slotted or standard, depending on your vernacular. You may potentially need a hammer. As an aircraft guy, I believe that nothing can't be solved without the judicious use of a hammer. So you need a hammer. This is a very nice little hammer. It's great for, if you do a bunch of different gunsmithing projects. Gonna need a microfiber. I'm using Super Lube, which is a PTFE lubricant. You're gonna need some type of a container for your old parts. Got some 1000 grit sandpaper here, and I got some Flitz for the polish. Additionally, you might want to get you some isopropyl alcohol. I'm using 99%. You may want to get you a nice soft mat to work on for your surface. Definitely get your coffee. Just make sure you're in a nice, calm, happy place, because this is the part of the operation that can get a little bit frustrating. The last thing you're going to need, some type of rotary tool with a flexible cable. I recommend. You don't have to have the flex cable, but really it's nice. I'm going to give you guys a link down in the video description to that particular machine. It is an affiliate link, however the machine is 30 bucks. You don't pay any extra. I get a little something that helps me make videos for you. So let's go over this a little bit. It's also definitely recommended that you have a bench block of some type. For $7 and something cents, go onto the Mcarbo website and just buy it. You're gonna use it. This is not only for your CZ pistols. This is for pretty much any small little projects where you got to bang pins out, knock pins in, hold it, sit it up, do a little polishing, and what have you. It's a very useful thing to have around. So obviously you're going to want to lay your tools out to where you have them within easy reach of you. I've already stripped the slide since we did the polishing on the firing pin block. Keep a clean workspace. So have an extra baggie or something to put the old springs in, because you're definitely not going to want to get them confused. And this is what I'm going to put all of the original components in. We've already replaced the roll pin, but it's always good to have an extra one with any CZ pistol, because sometimes the roll pins can break. Though the upgraded one is reputed not to do that anywhere near as much. And here's the spring. So this is our old hardware box, bag, what have you. All the pins and whatnot I'm going to be taking out in here. And I'm using a little bowl or tobacco can in this case, just because I can put a little isopropyl alcohol in there and do a nice deep clean on the parts before I go ahead and reassemble them. So let's go ahead, get you repositioned, because I'm broke and I only have one camera. So support the channel, buy a rotary tool. You need one, you do. Let's go through the anatomy of a CZ P07 real quick. So this is your trigger return spring. Yeah, baby, there you go. So you see that weird, goofy looking spring? There you go. That is your trigger return spring. I'm gonna go ahead and hold up the new one just so you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like. This is a tiny little fella. That is your disconnector spring. So you definitely don't want to lose that. Here is your hammer spring. Hammer strut spring, main spring. Has a bunch of different names, all does the same thing. So it makes the hammer go forward and strike the primer with enough force to set it up. And lastly, we get to this weird little looking jobby right here, okay? Oh, all right, there we go. I guess that's about as focused as it's gonna get, but this is your trigger return spring. This is one of the springs that we are gonna be replacing. So the first step is gonna be knocking this pin out right here. Hopefully you guys can see that. Right there. We're gonna push that out. This is your trigger bar, and you can see your disconnector lever kind of sort of right there. See the trigger bar wiggling back and forth there? A little hard to get the angle while you're doing this all by yourself, but there's your trigger bar. You can see the spring now for sure up front for the trigger return spring. You have your ejector, one of the points of disassembly for the fire control mechanism. You have a decocker lever, which you can see the little sear surfaces down in there. Those are going to be important. Pay attention to that decocker spring because that is not going to be replaced, but there's a goofy looking leg on it, and just kind of splice this in. So this is going to look a little weird if I forget to edit this out. Righty, so here you've got that little hump on the trigger bar there. You see the trigger bar right there. That little hump is part of what is your disconnector mechanism, okay? So it prevents the gun from firing out of battery, and when you don't want it to. Now we've got the trigger bar itself. You can see the trigger returns. There you go. That is the trigger bar return spring, that weird, goofy looking crazy leg thing. Now we're going to come down. So that weird hump is your firing pin block device, right? So what that does is that gives you, if the gun is out of battery, meaning it's not all the way forward, it will prevent the firing pin from going forward. This is what gives you drop safety, and this is also what gives you a little bit of additional safety to prevent out of battery detonation. Ejector, your decocker engagement surfaces here are a little bit rough. Once we polish this surface down here, the sear and the hammer, without changing the geometry, that's the key, just polish it up, we're going to have a smooth, buttery feel. Everything that you're seeing moving right now is going to get polished. So let's get after it. Sorry about the sidebar. Hopefully I'll remember to edit that out. Maybe I won't. Take a look at how that sear plays, and you can kind of get a feel for it on what we're going to be polishing. So basically, whenever you have metal on metal, metal pushing metal, etc., you have a little bit of friction. So if you have a really nice slick surface on all of these contact points, you're going to have a trigger that the only thing you're fighting at that point is the springs. So let's get after it. Let's beautify this bad boy. You're going to set it up on your bench block. This is the first part. We're going to shove this out, and we're going to make sure that the hammer is forward for this, whatever size that is, 3/32. Just finger pressure is all it should take. Try running it out on this side. There it goes. Okay. So from right to left, pops out easily. I don't know if yours will be the same. Mine sure did. So you can see right here, you got to overcome that groove to get it to pop out easily. Now, as you can see, the punch has captured that spring. You're going to keep your thumb or your finger or whatever you can fit in there. You're going to keep something over that so the spring doesn't go flying off, and just slowly let the pressure off. So here you go. You can see this is the original. Now the trigger comes. Now your trigger comes up and out. You're not trying to force anything, okay? And I just realized I forgot to take off the trigger bar spring. So you're going to use your flat tip, come under the trigger bar, and there's a little spring, and you're just going to pop it up and over just like that, okay? Be very careful because we're not replacing that spring either. Because it was under spring tension, did not want to play ball, did not want to come out of position. That's a good thing. So now you're going to take your micro tip, your flat tip, small screwdriver, jeweler screwdriver, electronic screwdriver, tweaker, whatever it is you choose to call it, and you're going to cock the hammer back, and you're going to create just a little bit of space by gently prying out on the decockered lever. You're going to pry out just a hair. You don't need to Superman this. Then you're going to use this, and you're going to push down on it, which is going to release it. And you can already see it's starting to come out now. Keep control over that spring because that spring's going to pop, right? So this side of the decocker, you're just going to rotate it up. As you can see, the decocker spring is now released. This little leg, as you rotate it into place, fits in there just so. So you got to pay attention to that. And you're just going to kind of, this side is disconnected. We'll go ahead and pop that out. That is the left side. Tweezers would be kind of a godsend if you happen to have those. I'm going to go ahead and pop that spring out so I don't lose it. So this crazy little leg right here, that crazy little leg actually goes into a hole down there. Just take it nice and easy. You can see where some of those engagement surfaces, such as here on the decocker, could benefit from being a little more polished. So we're going to do that. We're just going to be polishing the top of it, by the way. And there's another spring right here. So that, hopefully that'll come out. But right here, right there, it's smaller on one side and bigger on the other. So this is a directional pin. You're going to push it from the right side to the left. And before we do that, you have to unlock the pin. This is your ejector. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull it down and then push forward, and it'll just kind of pop out when you get it just right. You're going to have to do this a few times. There it goes. There's your ejector. This long leg sits down into a roll pin that's down inside the frame. We'll get to that hopefully in a little bit, but it's important to remember that the leg goes under. Got the pin loose. We're going to set her up like so. Grab our 3/32. We're just going to push it out gently. Here's our sear pin. As you can see, one side is bigger than the other. Goes through this way. Set that into our parts bucket. Oops. Be very careful because she will pop. So now we've got the sear out, and this is one of the surfaces that we're going to be polishing, so you're going to see why. And then here is the engagement surface. When we get the hammer out, we'll walk through that. And this little area here with the disconnector that kind of looks like a ball bearing, we're going to be polishing that up a little bit as well. So we're going to go ahead and set the small parts in here for now. And we've got our tiny little spring. Remove the trigger bar. So you can see there's a little hook that pops up. Here is the trigger and the trigger bar. And yep, we're definitely going to be polishing the shit out of that thing. It's going to look like a mirror when we're done. Right, oh, don't want to lose that. You're going to take your punch and you're just going to compress the mainspring slightly. I've seen some people where they put a punch right here and then use the pistol itself to do the compression, so maybe I can get lucky there. Give that a go, see how that works for me. Oh, look at that, works beautiful. There's your pin, and hopefully you caught that. I put the punch under here and press down. Over that, you're just going to pull your punch out, which is acting as a slave pin right now, and you're going to decompress it. So now you've got your tube. Here is the hammer spring, which we are replacing, so we're going to put it in the old springs box. This is the one nice thing about having an exploded parts diagram on this here Tekmat, is it lets you just kind of sort of see how that all goes together. Now, you don't want to use your punch for that, but you can see how it was all retained. And pull the hammer up and out. And you have your disconnect here, which is going to come up and out, and that's going to get a little polish and love too. And now we can really see. So this surface right here, that's what's got to get the polish. That's what's going to have your probably 50% improvement right there, is just that. Just polishing that and getting all of those tool marks out of there. There we go. So you can kind of see there's tool marks all up on it, and that's what you're going to be polishing out with that 1000 grit. So this was the worst of the worst, guys. If you can get it apart, you can get it back together, I promise. Don't be scared. And then you have your hook right there. I'm going to do just a little bit here. You can already see where some of those surfaces have a little wear on them just from breaking it in. So we're just going to polish those surfaces a little bit because we are going to be polishing this area of the hammer and this area of the hammer without changing the geometry. Because if you change the geometry, you can potentially make it unsafe. Give the innards of the frame a nice wipe. Go ahead and pop your back strap off. If you're curious how it's going to feel with different back straps, this is a great time to do that. Just wipe it out, get any excess oil and crud out. Wonderful time to do this. More of that grit and crud you get out of there, the better the result is going to be ultimately. There is kind of a point of diminishing returns, so just so you're aware. Also, just want to point this out. This would be a great time to run some 1000 grit sandpaper here, just in case yours was like mine and it had just a little bit of a ridge there. I went ahead and buffed all of that out, so now it's just a very nice to hold, nice to feel. Go ahead and put my back strap back on. All right, so now we're pretty much done with this for right now. So we'll go ahead and set that off to the side. If you have a little lubrication, it just helps everything slide in nicer. If you don't believe me, ask your mom.